Hi everyone, welcome back to another review. Today I have an oldie for you guys. Um, Bijan for Men. This has been released in the 80s, and it's a very intriguing perfume. I was born in the 80s, so I grew up smelling or remembering the smell of the 90s fragrances. I don't remember much of the 80s ones. I've heard about all the crazy perfume era of the 80s, and it's strange how every decade has, that's strange, I would say, actually interesting, how every decade has its own fashion in terms of perfumes and even clothing, music. If you have a look, the music in the 80s is different than the 90s or beginning of 2000s. It's and in the perfume game, this is definitely more pronounced. You can tell the difference between an 80s fragrance and the 90s fragrance, let alone after that. So it's this is very intriguing because it's I don't like the 80s fragrances, even if I keep buying them sometimes just to understand why it was that way, why that smell was very relevant during those years, and why is it that we don't like that smell anymore. Sometimes it's not just about, oh, it smells like a granddad or a father or whatever. Sometimes it doesn't even make you think of that. It doesn't remind you any person per se, like any old person, because you never smelt it before. But as soon as you spray it, it smells, as people would say, it smells old. So all the notes and accords that used to be um, the benchmark, let's say, of fragrances in the 80s, they pretty much dropped those and replaced them with, there are some synthetics, aroma chemicals that are more appealing, even natural essential oils. I would say something that never goes out of style would be lemon, bergamot, but still the lemon of the fragrances released in the 70s is different than you'd know that if you spray two lemon based fragrances, an old one and a new one, you would tell which one's new. There are some actually notes and ingredients that perfume companies can't use anymore because they just they just let's say create a allergic reaction to some people. Um, so let's say like oak moss, like pure oak moss essential oil. Apparently, some people get some a reaction from it on their skin. So a lot of 80s perfumes used to be based on oak moss. So that's been dropped. Perfume companies did find some synthetics to use that smell like oak moss. That's basically aroma chemicals, synthetically made, obviously. That smell like oak moss, not exactly like that, but it does actually remind you of oak moss. Um, what I'm getting at with Bijan is that it is from the 80s, but it's not. It is there is oak moss in it. Oak moss is usually used in base notes for longevity and to give some depth to fragrances because it's got that earthy, dark, woodsy element to it, almost like fougère, like a dark fougère kind of element. Bijan's got the oak moss in the top notes, and that's the only perfume that I've seen with oak moss in the top notes. And he's got like other 70,000 other notes. So what does this smell like? Let's spray it. Right out of the top, you get this fresh lemon smell with a slight sweetness to it. It smells like dry fruit sweetness. Let's say a date or fig. I'm not saying there's a fig smell here. There's that sweetness from it. It reminds you of dry fruit sweetness mixed with lemon and something warm and I'd say not balsamic, but a little bit balsamic, I would say, yeah. if I can get actually a grasp of this note. It's very pleasing. It's when you spray it, you wouldn't think this has been made in the 80s. It's very different from pretty much all the other fragrances from the 80s. Where this starts smelling a little bit old school is during the dry down, where it starts smelling a little bit like something you would smell in the 80s, that's been made in the 80s. Other than that, the first maybe hour or so, it just smells of this lemon, warm lemon with some dry fruit sweetness to it. When I say sweetness, I'm not saying candy sweet. Obviously, I said dry fruit sweet. So it's kind of a different sweetness that you don't smell in your regular perfumes. It's very. I would say this was very ahead of its time. I haven't smelled anything close to this. The lemon does remind me slightly, just slightly of Boucheron EDT. That one does smell a little bit old, but in a classic way. Not like, oh, I don't want to wear that. It's classy. When it sits on the skin, it's pretty nice. A little bit like Eau Sauvage by Dior and Chanel Pour Monsieur. That kind of lemon, that kind of old bergamot, old lemon smell. It's still, the lemon is starting to dissipate a little bit, but I still get this nice, slightly woodsy, sweet, dry fruit sweet. There's a warmth element to it. I can't put my finger on what, I don't know what that is. This smells like something you'd smell in a tent in the middle of the desert with dry fruit all around, some kind of warm wind whistling outside, sandstorm. That's chaos. It smells nice. It really smells nice. It's still relevant nowadays, 2023. This can easily be sprayed and no one would think it smells old. Again, that's my nose. Some people may think it smells old. We all have different noses, different perspectives and interpretations of notes and accords. But to me, this smells. This is still relevant. It smells nice. Also, the bottle shape it's like a donut, and the cap looks like I don't know, something you see in a golf course. Yeah, it's very different. Very different. Alright guys, this was my review for Bijan for Men. Thanks for watching. Until next one.